So, a reminder before the lesson begins, make sure you're taking notes and you're listening and watching for the keyword or phrase.
Let's get to it. Okay, so today we are going to be talking about solving a system of equations algebraically, but using the elimination method this time. We've already talked about graphing, solving it algebraically with substitution method, and now today will be the elimination method. So the first step is that you want to decide which variable you're going to eliminate. So you can decide between your x or your y variable, or maybe it's a different type of variable that they're giving you in the actual problem. So you want to make sure you're choosing which one to get rid of. The second step, there's 3 sections in A, B, and C. So just bear with me. So for the first scenario, if coefficients of the same variable are the same, so you have, let's say, 2a and 2a, you're going to distribute -1 to one of the equations. So you're going to multiply -1 to every term in that equation, even your result. This way, you can add the 2 equations to eliminate one of the variables. So here we would have 2a, and then we would multiply by negative, so we have a -2a, and you would see they are additive inverses, so they would cancel each other out. In the second scenario, we have coefficients of the same variable that are opposites, and then you're going to add them. So this is kind of skipping that first step. So if you already have the coefficients set up as a positive and a negative, you just have to combine them. You don't have to distribute that -1 to the entire equation or to one of the equations. The third scenario for the second part, if you have coefficients of the same variable that are not the same or opposites, you're going to have to multiply by 1, or both equations by a constant, so you're adding that. When you're adding, it will eliminate one of the variables. I think the last scenario is probably the most complicated, and as you see as we do examples, you just have to find the value that you'll multiply your coefficients by in order to cancel them out when you add. And then the last step, after you have all these possible scenarios, you're going to substitute the value into one equation and then solve for the other variable, the one that you canceled out. So again, this method is called elimination because you are actually eliminating one of the variables, getting rid of it using mathematical manipulation in order to solve for one of your variables, and then using that variable to solve for the one that you eliminated originally. So let's see this in action. So we have our first example. We have x minus 3y equals -15, and we have 5x plus 3y equals -3. We can see we have a -3y and a positive 3y. So here we don't have to actually do anything. All we have to do is add them together. This is going to follow under our second scenario, when if they're the same and opposites, the coefficients are the same and they're opposites, all you have to do is add them together. So here we just have to go down the line and just eliminate y. They kind of set it up for you, so you don't have to actually decide which one you will eliminate. So we have 1x plus 5x, we're going to get 6x. 3y -3y plus 3y will cancel out. The y will be eliminated. And then you'll have equals -15 plus -3, which will give you -18. So this is how we're adding our terms together. We're adding our constants. We're adding our values with variables with x. We're combining our variable with y. So here we have 6x equals -18. We're going to solve for x by dividing both sides by 6. And we're going to get x equals -3. So we've done step 1, step 2. Now we're up to step 3, which is to use this value and substitute it into any of the equations. I'm just going to pick the first one. So we have x minus 3y equals -15. I'm going to use my x, substitute it in, so I have negative 3 minus 3y equals negative 15, and I'm going to solve for my y variable. So here we have, I'm adding 3 to both sides, inverse operations. Again, negative 12, divide by negative 3 on both sides to cancel out. Y is going to equal positive 4. And remember, the whole idea for solving is to find a solution, which will be a coordinate point, which in this case, it will be negative 3, comma 4. Because again, our x is negative 3 and our y is positive 4 that we found. All right, let's try number 2. So number 2, they give you 2x plus 6y equals 6 and 2x minus y equals negative 8. So here we have the same coefficient and we have the same variable. The easiest one is probably to eliminate our x variable because they're already setting us up with the same coefficient. So what I would want to do is I'm going to multiply by negative 1. Again, you can multiply the first one or the second one. It's up to you. If you're using the correct process, using right computations, you should have the same answer. I'm going to take the second and multiply it by negative 1. I always like rewriting my equations so I don't mess up. That's just me. Again, until you get more comfortable, you should do the same. So I have 2x plus 6y equals 6. Now I'm going to distribute my negative 1 to every term inside my parentheses that I drew. So 2x times negative 1 would be negative 2x. Negative y times negative 1 is a positive y. And then 8 times negative 1 is negative 8. So this would be my new equation when I distribute my 1 to each term. So I'm adding these together. So again, I have my opposites. So these are going to cancel out. 6y plus y is going to give me 7y. 6 minus 8 is negative 2. I divide both sides by 7. Y equals negative 2/7 is going to be my y value. All right, so now I am going to move on to solve for my x variable. I'm going to use my y variable and substitute that into my equation. I'm going to take the second equation, the original one. So I'm going to take 2x minus y equals 8. So I have 2x minus a negative 2/7 plus 8. So we really have 2x plus 2/7. Ooh, this is equals 8. And that's going to equal 8. So then we're going to subtract 2/7. I'm going to make it an improper fraction. So I have 2x equals 54/7. And I'm going to divide both sides by 2. My x value is going to be 27/7. If you want, you can change 27/7 into a mixed number. So you get x equals 3 6/7. So here our solution would be x, which is 3 6/7, comma, negative 2/7. You could have also written the solution as 27/7, comma, negative 2/7 also. These would have been equivalent solutions. So here's another situation. What if you can't add? So this would be our third scenario that we talked about in our steps in the beginning. So here we have 3x plus 8y equals 7 and 2x minus 2y equals negative 10. None of your coefficients or variables are going to be the same, and none of them are opposites. So here we just have to pick an equation and a variable that you want to eliminate. So we've done a lot of x, so I'm going to choose y. So let's eliminate y. So I'm going to focus on 8y and negative 2y. What can I multiply in order to get the elimination part of this method. I'm going to multiply my second equation by 4. I already have that negative there, so I don't need to multiply by a negative value. All I have to do is multiply by 4 in order to get to 8. If I chose x, I could do that, but then I'd be multiplying both equations by a coefficient because your lowest common multiple would be 6. So you would have to multiply the first equation by 2 and then the second equation by 3, and one of those would have to be negative as well. So this, in my eyes, in my process, would be the least amount of work, I guess, and I hate to say that, but this way you're just multiplying by one thing versus two things. So we're going to multiply this equation by 4. Again, I always rewrite my equations. So I have 3x plus 8y equals 7. That one does not change. And then I have 4 times 2x is going to give me 8x minus 8y equals negative 40. I multiplied my 40 each of the terms, and that is what I got. And then I have to add them together. So again, these are going to cancel out. That was a whole idea. 3 plus 8 is going to give me 11x. 7 minus 40 is going to give me negative 33. I'm going to divide both sides by 11. X is going to equal negative 3. Once I have my x value, I'm going to substitute into one of the equations, and I'm just going to take 3x plus 8y plus equals 7. I'm going to substitute it into here, and then I'm going to solve for my y value. So we get negative 9 plus 8y equals 7. Add 9, just following order of operations. We have 8y equals 16, dividing both sides by 8. Y we get as 2. So my solution for 3 is going to be negative 3 comma 2. So number 4 is a little bit trickier. Take a look at your variables, take a look at what they're giving you, and then figure out what you can multiply or what you can do in order to find the solution through elimination. And again, the way I solve it might be a little bit different than you, but as long as you're following the process, if you did it a different way, that's fine. You should still get the same answer. So pause the video, try this one on your own, and we'll come back and try it together and check your answer. All right, so I'm personally going to choose to eliminate x. So I'm going to be focusing on these two terms. I have to multiply by two values. I have to multiply by 3 and 4. So my first equation, I'm going to multiply by 4 to get 12. In the second equation, I'm going to multiply by 3 in order to get 12. I already have a negative, so I don't have to multiply by a negative. So what I have, when I multiply everything out, I'm just going to move them to the right. I get negative 12x plus 36y equals negative 12. The second equation is 12x minus 39y equals 15. And now I can add those together. Here we're going to cancel our x values, or x variable. That was the whole point. I have 36 minus 39y, which is going to be negative 3y. Negative 12 plus 15 is 3. Divide both sides by negative 3. I'm going to get y equals negative 1. So your y value that you should have gotten was negative 1. And then using that and substituting into an equation, I'm just going to use 4x minus 13, y equals 5. I'm going to substitute it into there to get my x value. So negative 1 is going to be substituted in. I have 4x plus 13 equals 5. Subtract 13 from both sides. 4x equals negative 12. Sorry, negative 8. And then I have divide both sides by 4. X equals negative 2. So your x value that you should have arrived at was negative 2. Your y should have been negative 1. Solution. -2, comma, -1. All right, so if you have any questions, make sure you're writing them down. Make sure you ask me, email me, let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.